Come on, please. Yes! 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 Yes!
Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is episode number 13 of the 9 Dart Podcast, your one-stop shop for talking tungsten, and we're talking a lot of tungsten this week. Josh is alongside me in the fantastic Homesgen studios here at Extra Time. How are we, Josh?
Yes, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. It's been a very, very big week.
It has been a big week in darts,
We've got so much
sports
to dissect, don't we?
Yes, we do. On the day of what will in all likelihood be yet another Carlton loss. But we won't talk footy. We had footy chat on yesterday, and a big shout out to Sean, who is sitting in producing.
Yes,
We've got all three cameras for you for a change. We begin each episode with the first thoughts, and Josh, much like that Bob Dylan song, darts is a changing, and we'll get to that in the great debate, because it's been a big week. Quite a bit has happened. We had a good Premier League night in Newcastle. The sport is growing. It's on the up. There's big news on these shores, which we'll get to in a moment, very much concerns you and me, funnily enough. Things are changing and going well in darts. The sport is in absolutely fantastic health.
Absolutely. No, you're right. I think it's probably in one of the best states it's ever been, to be honest. There's so much going on. You've got the JDC, the ADC, the Motors, obviously PDC. You've got so many different avenues, and it's just growing. So it's fantastic. There's so much going on in darts at the moment. Sensational.
There is, absolutely. And we will jump straight into it with our crazy moments. We've got Premier League and Players' Championship floor events to talk about. And Gary Anderson, he's beginning to bring back a little bit of that form.
Yes.
This has been a very common theme on the floor in the sort of last 18, 24 months, depending on how you want to count it. He hit a 9-darter in a match against, I believe that's Christopher Tyskie.
Yes, yep.
Against the Polish Eagle. So that was our first crazy moment of the weekend. We had, I believe Ian White hit a 9-darter during one of the European Tour qualifiers overnight as well. That's not a streamed event, but he did that as well. We like 9-darters, and we like Gary Anderson hitting 9-darters. When he hits a 9-darter on TV in particular, they're always really good and really great watches.
Hence why we're called the 9-Dart Podcast.
Yes.
Can work that already. But it's great to see him back in a bit of form, because, he's been a bit off and on, and obviously he's been, still out of the game for a while. So good to see him get back of form.
Absolutely.
And obviously 9-darter is fantastic, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It was good too, actually.
Yeah, it was.
Like the way he went and actually how it sat in the board was good. You can see those first two sat perfectly in the middle of the treble there. So good to see.
We had something that happened on a Friday morning, which is actually not happened, I reckon, since about 2022, 2023. We had a Premier League whitewash. These are rare events, and on the receiving end was my Stephen Bunting. Let's be honest, there was nothing much apart from those 3 missed darts at double in the first leg. That was really about all he got, because Luke Littler averaging about 110 he wasn't going to be beaten in this particular match, and I think Stephen knew it, that he would have beaten basically everyone else on that night with that 102.15 average. But he didn't get a look in against Luke Littler on the first game of night 8.
No. Again, unfortunate for him, unfortunate for you, being a diehard Bunting mental fan.
Yes.
But when will he get his first win? I'm not sure. It could be this week, which we'll get to later on in the show. But it was a
crazy performance. And it continued to be a very disappointing campaign for Bunting. 8-19, no wins. He's closing in on that Glenn Durrant individual season record. He'll equal that if he loses this week. It was a different format, but consecutive losses. Someone who keeps winning is Littler. He equals the record for most nightly wins in a Premier League, and we're only halfway through. I think he's got more than 180s, don't say that too quickly, and he's on his way to chasing. He's got 102, and he's going to be looking for at least 200 by the time we get to the end of night 16. He actually got worse as the night got on, which makes sense after the first match.
True.
So we got 109.98 average in the first game, 97.51 average in the second, and then finishing off with a 93.62 in his match against Bunting, Cross, and Humphreys. But all in all, it was a solid performance, and he didn't really ever look like he was going to get beat. He lost 4 legs for the entire night.
Wow.
He won. It was 18-4. We're running out of superlatives, Josh, and we're running out of them badly.
1 over 6-3 to Cross, and then 6-1 to Humphreys. 4 legs dropped for the night. That's just sensational, and you don't see a whitewash in the Premier League often, and then that was one that happened on that night. So again, he's just in impeccable form. There's nothing else you could really say. He just keeps winning things, and he'll keep winning for a very long while, you'd think, in the midst of playing FIFA on the Xbox.
Yes, exactly. A 10-180 is by far the best for the night, but actually a far drop off from the 22, the 16 that he hit in night 6 and 7. So it wasn't anywhere near his best performance. And I don't think there's any doubt now that he will shortly pick up a 5th Premier League nightly win and break the records of this format since 2022. I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point.
Yeah, no, you're right. Exactly. I reckon he could win even 6, 7
6,
even.
7. Could he even go? Could it be a perfect 50-50 split? 8 for Littler, 8 for people not called Littler.
That's
he
true.
might very well do that. And through the first half of the Premier League, he's done that 4 and 4.
Yeah.
I know we haven't put this on the rundown necessarily, but obviously Luke Humphries getting to a final was a good night.
Yep.
And I said on the podcast last week that the Aspinall-Van Gogh match was the one to watch for the night, and it turned out that way. Went to a last leg decider.
Yep.
MVG didn't play too badly, but he did go down to Aspinall.
Yeah, he was all right. I think MVG was decent, but Aspinall was good. Obviously had the 6-5 victory over MVG, then also had a thrilling encounter against Humphries, both in excess of 100 average there, 6-5 and a nail biter to the last leg. So it was good to watch. Good to see him get get the win against MVG and be very competitive against the caliber of Humphries.
Absolutely. So we'll have a look at the how it stands in the Premier League a little bit later as we do our predictions. Moving away from the Premier League to the floor, aforementioned. Gerwyn Price picking up event number 9, and Josh Rock, very much a positive surprise, picking up event number title in event number 10.
Yes.
Someone who's always threatened to do plenty of good things, and Rocky, one of those crop of young players we've been expecting good things for, picking up a Pro Tour title along with the Iceman.
He does seem to do well in these players' championship events. I don't know. It just seems every time we look at it, he's obviously got
this format does seem to
form.
suit him. Those
it does.
Multiple day.
Yep.
That single day, multiple match sort of short format event do seem to he does seem to enjoy those.
Yeah, exactly. No, so good to see him. I think, didn't he hit a 9-dart in one of these early Play Championship events?
I'm pretty sure he did.
Early on, I'm pretty sure it was like maybe the 4th or 5th edition of it. I think he hit one. So we do sort of actually see his face quite regularly on the Play Championship scene, which is good, but good to see him get another win on the floor.
Absolutely. So Gerwyn Price had an 8-4 win over Ian White. He actually averaged 114 in his 7-0 whitewash semi-final win over Brendan Dolan, who had a good day getting to the last 4. As did Cameron Menzies after the discussion we had last week on him. He got to a victory. He got through 5 victories, being bumped out by Ian White in the semi-final stage. And then he got to the final, Players Championship 10, before losing to Josh Rock. He beat Michael Smith. And Rain Van Barneveld also had a good day into quarterfinal. Stephen Bunting picked up some much-needed wins, getting to a quarterfinal before losing to Smith. That was in Players' Championship 10 on, it would have been Wednesday morning, sort of Tuesday night, Wednesday morning Australian time. I mentioned Ian White, and in round 3, he beat Luke Littler 6-5. Ian White is one of these funny players, isn't he? Where he's it would be a genuine surprise if he ever won a major, sort of like in that Dave Chisnell category, because he doesn't seem to have the greatest TV form, and when he does make deep TV runs, he usually does run into a very good performance on the other end. But he's a quality player, and he can pull out some really good performances, particularly in these Pro Tour environments, and he had a rare victory over Luke Littler. Not many people are doing that at the moment.
Yes, I've labelled it an upset victory because it simply was. In that last leg, I actually watched the last leg when they put it on the Instagram. He actually had a 180, a very clutch 180. He had 226, and Littler was on 10 something rather. Hits a 180 to leave himself 46, and Littler cannot take it out. He fails to take it out after dart at tops, I think it was, and then White goes 6 tops to win. So very good performance, and that's a big upset. So good to see him get the win there.
Yes, averaging 106.04.
Very good.
Littler's 104.77. There are sort of the levels you have to do in order to beat Littler at the moment, and he did get a win on that Players' Championship scene. So well done there. We did have to throw in, yes, he was a positive surprise, but he was also a bit of a flop on Premier League night.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure you had him to win the night, didn't he?
I think.
And I had him to lose to Cross in the first round. So it was going to be one of the extremes, and it fell my way. Now, Crossy was very good, averaging pretty much a straight ton, 100 points. That's 8-7. But Gerwyn Price averaging a mere 86.17, one of the worst Premier League nights. He just never really got going. And when he doesn't get going, particularly on tops, when he's hitting tops, as you will see later in the show in the Darts Archive,
it looks good.
That's when he's at his absolute best. But he just wasn't at it on Thursday night, Friday morning for whatever reason that was.
Yeah, it was actually the lowest average of the night, actually, 86, and then the next was a 92 by Humphreys in that first round against Dobie. So, again, disappointing. It's good to see he got the Players' Championship win, but when it comes to the Premier League and you got a wide audience in the top 8, what the PDC sees, disappointing. But
so it was a little bit disappointing,
well,
but Cross did play well in that particular match before running to a great Littler performance. Bryce, Premier League, a bit all over the place, has had a couple of nightly wins and thrown in an 86 average along the way. So he's throwing in a bit of everything in the big arenas at the moment. So he was our biggest flop. Now, I was struggling to find a disappointing moment. I have found something pertaining to what's happening next. The PDC have announced their massive prize money thing.
Yes, we'll get to in a minute.
Which, by the way, came out on the last day of March after Barry Hearn said it was coming in March. He wasn't wrong. They came out in March. It was just the very last day of the month.
Better late than never.
Better late than never. And the only disappointing... Well, there were a couple of disappointing things for me, but the main one is just that the Premier League format is probably staying the same, what with the confirmation that there are 8 there and there's a nightly winner bonus, which implies to me that... they could maybe have a nightly winner bonus where they play one game a night and they give it to the highest winning average. But
sure. Or the most
180s
for the night. Yes,
they do something else that's a winner. So something like that. But that's probably unlikely. It's probably still the same 8-player. Very long. I'm starting to get a little bit tired of just seeing Bunty lose every week. See something a little bit different. No, probably
Agreed.
not. There's something else to pick bones out with the prize money, which we will discuss now in the great debate, because that's been what's raging. So we'll set out the facts. We'll set out the headlines for you just off the bat before we get into it. The PDC finally have announced their prize money for 2026, and it is big. It's a massive increase. I think it's up to like
7 million increase.
Yeah, £7 million increased from 2025 into 2026. The big sort of headline making one is £5 million World Championship and £1 million going to the winner, which has been the much wanted wish of Barry Hearn, and he got that done. So up $7 million from 2025 going to 2026. 1.25 million for the Premier League now, as you saw on the previous slide. 1 million for the match play and the slam.
That's good.
4 other Premier events go up to 750k. When I first saw that, I went, hang on, are they creating 4 new different events? I read that a second time, went, oh no, it's just existing events going to 750. That's what it is. And some pretty good news for particularly the Challenge Tour Development Tour Women's Series and overseas stuff, getting a little bit of an increase as well, which is good. That's
what we wanted to hope for, and that's what we got.
And it should be noted before we get into perhaps 1 or 2 of the negatives of this. It is a bit unusual when you see such broadcast rights in this, that this is like 50% of the money going back into the sport, which you don't usually see. Usually it's 80% get pocketed by the executives themselves. So the fact they're even throwing this much money into it is still a net benefit, I think.
I love how the overseas development gets a lot of more increase by 50%. That's fantastic. So you get all those different qualifying events and different events across different stages.
PDC affiliates.
PDC affiliate events. Correct.
So when we break it down, this is how it shakes up. Like we said, 5 million. So we can glean a couple of things from this. Firstly, the World Championship will be, if you're familiar with the tennis Grand Slam format, it will be basically that 1-8, 64, 32. Now, would it be a massive shock if they went at the last minute no, we need to protect our big boys once more by putting them straight in the 3rd round? Yes, they could do that. But it would have to be shown here as a last 1-8, a last 96, which they haven't done. And also, it would mean that you have to scrap the long-held tradition of the defending champion playing on opening night.
That's right.
And with Luke Littler being the defending champion, they're not going to take that down. So expect a tennis Grand Slam style 1-8. Got to win 7 matches to win it all. I presume the first 2 matches would be 1st to 3. The next match is 1st to 4. This is sets, and then 5, 6, 7. World match play up to 225,000 for the winner. Grand Slam 200,000. What has been missed in this is, I'm pretty sure it did say on the previous slide. Yeah, right here in the brackets, Grand Slam expanding to 48 players. This has been something that I don't think anyone has talked about, but I'm very excited to see what this is. The Grand Slam, which I feel like should be the next biggest on the money maker, but often hasn't been because it's been sort of a mess with the qualification format. Hopefully we get a much nicer, much smoother qualification format, which also allows more for those overseas affiliate tours. It does mean we see groups of 3 rather than groups of 4, which will be a departure from what the Grand Slam has been since its introduction. I think it was 2007, somewhere around there. Grand Prix, European Championship, Players Championship Finals, and UK Open is the same, and World Masters also there for 1,000, which I think is a little bit higher. Before I get into any personal negatives and we talk about those, what are your immediate takeaways from the prize money announcement?
Yeah, well, obviously it's a good thing across the board, for, as if you see at the top, you got the World Championship, Match Play, Grand Slam, Grand Prix, European Championship, Players Championship Finals, UK Open, World Masters. So good to see the distribution of money increase across the board. But I think one notable thing, those lower end tour card holders, 65 to 128, are getting a bit more love.
They're getting a little bit more. I think if you're sort of...
As they deserve to be.
As they deserve to be. There is a slight increase there. For 33 to 64 in particular. I don't think there'll be any doubt that you will have professional status now as a result of this.
Yes.
Top 32 are the same always. So I do think for that sort of middle of the pack, this is pretty good for the most part. Turning up to the World Match Play and getting bumped out first rounds, 12,500, that's not too bad. 15,000 for the World Championship. What that will do is often when we talk at the World Championship about retaining tour cards, it's usually, this player's got to win and then has got to get in and then got to win a match or two. Here with 15,000 for losing in the first round, which was the equivalent of losing in the second round last year. It's almost going to be that tour card holder qualifier for the World Championships is almost going to be a retain your tour card shootout here.
Pretty much.
If you've got that 15,000, you're pretty much guaranteed maybe you have to win one match.
Yeah, good point. No, that's a very good point, actually. No, you summed it up well. Well, we talked about Whitlock trying to get his tour card early on in our episodes about has to beat this play and try to get a few more wins on the floor, etc. But now the change has been good for that.
So the only couple of things we might mention is the fact that I feel like the UK Open probably could have a bit more money out to it. I don't like the fact that the winner gets less money than the Players Championship Finals. That probably doesn't feel quite right.
True. Yeah. I didn't notice that until now.
So 120,000 as compared to the 130,000 for the other Minehead Major feels like if anything should be the other way around. And the only real 2 major things we could knock on this is there's no money still for the last for losing first round at the UK Open.
That's the one thing.
And there is still did I add this on the other one or no? I've got the Future Stars on the next one. There's still nothing on any money losing first round of Pro Tour events. So there's probably the only 2 things we're probably missing at this point.
Sure.
There's been plenty of debate. I saw Paul Nicholson. I saw a promo for it. I'm not sure if it's up yet on the Motor Super Series channel, where he was having a bit of a whinge at people who like the idea of prize money for Pro Tour for first round money for Pro Tour losers, which is he was having a heated back and forth exchange with Phil Bars of the famous Phil Bars of Online Darts. They were having a back and forth spat on Twitter, which was an amusing read. So I'll be interested to actually sit down and listen to his thoughts. We might bring that next week.
We'll do that.
I'm still in the camp of if it's not first round prize money, but it needs to be at least some sort of perhaps start of the year payment for particularly new tour card holders, especially given you call yourself the Professional Darts Corporation and yet half your tour still isn't really professional. This does help a little bit for a few others, so that sort of 64 cutoff is still absolutely the same. You were right when you said that, but and 64 to 128 is probably helped a little bit by this, but maybe not quite as much as they probably
not
could
as
be.
much as what we thought and that I personally hoped for, because you get a tour card, you're in a elusive group of 128 people, you know. So again, there's a little bit of love for that, but there's not enough as what I was thinking, what we were thinking essentially. But as you mentioned, those lower end guys still need to go to their previous occupations that they're doing. You mentioned that a couple episodes ago. So, but essentially the top 32 are deemed, professional, but the rest
not so much.
165, 128 essentially need to go back to
have a job on on Wednesdays and Thursdays to cater for their supposedly professional careers. So, look, we made some strides in that.
Yep.
I still think some money needs to be paid out at the start of the year to, if not all tour card holders, then at least the new ones in their first or second year.
At least the new ones.
Because that's an easy thing to work out, because you'll know how many get through Q School.
Yep.
So you can have it right there for them as they're walking out the door. Here you go, mate. Here's your 15 grand, your 20 grand. There you go. Off
Enjoy.
you go. Enjoy. And if you can't make it work, we'll take it back and give it to someone else who will hopefully stay around for a little bit longer. So overall, this is a rather good development.
Yep.
Format for the World Championship is a good thing. I would like to see a little bit more money on the World Match Plays. Well, the only other thing is mentioned is, does this make it already is sort of, does this make the World Championship, the rankings to World Championship top heavy with the sort of, even if you look just at the total payment, they're big 5 times more than the next highest ranking event.
That's true. I didn't notice that. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, obviously the World Championship is the biggest event on the calendar.
So it sort of has to be.
So yeah, but that's an argument for maybe a different time. But
maybe.
Yeah, well, I think ultimately we can agree on it's good to see more money being paid out. Absolutely. The distribution is in question, as you said. The UK Open in comparison to the World Championship finals, they're getting a slight more. Play Championship, sorry. Getting more money for the finals in comparison to a bigger event like the UK Open. But besides that, I think we're relatively
happy with what we've got. So if it was up to me, there'd be a little bit more for the World Match Play, a little bit more for the UK Open, a little bit more for the Masters as well. I feel like 500,000 is underselling it a little bit, because it was a great event at Milton Keynes. The Luke Humphreys won earlier in the year, so I'd like to see a little bit more there. But for the most part, it's reasonable. Perhaps the sort of World Championship top heavy wouldn't be quite the same discussion if it was a 1 year order merit, as most sports have, instead of a 2 year order merit that the darts have. That would be a fun exercise, just looking and seeing how the world rankings would be right now if it was 1 year, not 2, or if it was a slightly different sort of weighted system. So that might be an exercise for another time. I'll just busily at 11:30 at night, the day before the podcast, going, right, I need to calculate Richie Edhouse's rankings. That will be all good. Yeah, alrighty.
That's going to affect his prize money or whatever.
Exactly. So that's the big talking point from the week. Prize money finally confirmed. The only other small little dig I'll have is we still don't have any information on the World Championship sort of qualification and how that pays out. Yeah. Let's hope we'll get it out by at least the last day of April.
Hope so.
Alrighty, let's move on. The JDC sort of league, I think it's called the Power League, will return this weekend for both the boys and girls, so we'll keep an eye on that. Currently sitting second in the girls is someone who I don't think I have mentioned in this segment, even though we have before in Paige Pauling, the reigning champion, girls WF world champion. That's the photo that was taken of her after that tournament win at the Lakeside.
Yep.
She's already picked up quite a few titles this year in both girls and I was actually going to bring this up. I think it was on this laptop. Won an event, I think it was in the Slovak Open, won the girls event and got to the quarterfinal of the women's event as well, which is a pretty good effort. So that was sort of a couple of months ago now. But she's currently sitting second in that JDC Power League at the moment, and obviously was a big standout at the WF World Championship and was one of the 4 world champion winners from that particular week, and so gets a Future Star nomination. I'll bring you all the latest from the JC Power League next week, and if there are any particular standouts, especially those that we haven't mentioned in this segment, we'll pop them up. That's both in the boys and girls events. But Paige Pauling, who is the reigning WF Girls champion, is our Future Star this week. Now
we've also got a young gun playing in the Moto Super Series in Thomas Banks, which we'll get to later on in Group C. So good to see him coming through the JDC again. I'm pretty sure I also
saw some Ryan Brandley news. I can't remember exactly what it was. I'm sure I saw something of him during the week. I can't remember what it was.
Good point.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure I saw him right after.
But this is probably the biggest news of the show in terms of us.
Yeah, for us, yes. So we mentioned... actually, on the Extra Time podcast, when it first came out and we were doing dart segments there, opposed to doing a darts podcast, about how darts in Australia... Damn it, there is one thing I want to throw on this Canva that I forgot, which is fine, I'll do it as we're talking about this. No, we'll keep going. We talked about darts in Australia, how it's in a sort of odd spot at the moment, and some things are needed to sort of grow it. Well, what the PDC decided to do is do a sort of Premier League of sorts. Basically, it's the same Premier League format. Before we get to the most exciting news, Josh, let's sort of work our way up expectations wide. Firstly, we have our first 2 names of people who will definitely be there. Firstly,
number 1,
Simon Whitlock,
the wizard.
I don't think there was any doubt that he was going to come.
Unfortunately, he didn't get his tour card, so it means he was eligible for the event. And I think from a marketing point of view, he was definitely going to be here. And good to see him. Good to see him take part for sure.
100%. He has been a big name in darts for a long time, been a big part of the
legend.
International growth of the sport.
Yep.
One of the most recognisable darts players from all corners of the globe for that green and gold and the walk-on song and the beard. He's got the recognisable look, and fantastically, he's going to be part of this, which is very exciting stuff. And he will be the main draw, you would think, for this Premier League, and he is a must-have.
Yeah. Oh, essentially, for sure, absolutely. Well, he's going to be here and make his big stage return, which is fantastic. I think we both came to the conclusion that he'd definitely be one of the names. We haven't got any understanding of most of the other names yet, but
no other players announced, but we will know who will be there.
We had a guess. We had a guess about what players could be there off air. So sort of look at those.
Just looking at the DPA order of merit as it stands now, Brenton Lloyd's on top with Brandon Weaning, Gordon Mathers, Harley Kemp, Robert Modra, Dave Marlin, Jeremy Fagg. That's the 7 other names that you might know. Mel Cumming, Joe Camito is 15. He was at the World Championship recently, who topped this DPA order of merit as well. Someone like Ben Robb, you feel would also be a very likely contender from the New Zealand side of things. Someone else who's going to be here, and it's going to be so great to see him out here, is one of the most iconic darts people of all time. He's currently ambassador of PDC ambassador. I think is his role at the moment since his retirement from calling PDC ranked events. The Voice, Russ Bray, is going to be part of this as well, a PDC Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Was inducted in 2024 before that World Final, which was his last.
As deserved.
Very much deserved, and he'll be heavily involved in training Australian New Zealand referees and being part of this whole Premier League.
Yeah, I saw it in an article from Darts News. Massive shout out. They did some fantastic stuff. So, you can see in the article, who was inducted into the PDC Hall of Fame in 2024, will play a prominent role during the event. He will share his knowledge and experience by training Australian and New Zealand referees during the Premier League. So that's great to see him helping out, and he's got a wealth of knowledge, obviously.
Of course.
Refereeing. Do you know how many years he's done it for? I mean,
he's been around since, I reckon, since the sort of late 90s, I reckon. Yeah. I reckon he was very early
20
days.
plus.
Yeah, it's at least 20, maybe close to even 30 now.
Yeah, so
he's got a wealth of experience.
So much experience.
He was there not quite right at the start of when the PDC formed in the mid-90s, but he was just after that.
Yep.
I think he did a world match play as sort of like his first major event, and his first matches was John Lowe and Paul Lim, who at the time were the only 2 people to hit a televised 9 data, so you can imagine the stress there. But he called it well.
Oh, yeah.
The PDC welcomed him aboard, and he's been a part of them ever since. So I think it's now 30 years he's been involved in this. Russ the Voice Bray is one of the most iconic darts referees and darts-related people of all time. One thing we also got confirmed, which sort of got hidden under everything else, but we do need to mention, is the format.
Yep.
It is effectively the same, at least for the first 7 nights, as the current Premier League format, the European-based, the PDC Premier League darts. We've got quarterfinalists into semi-finals and final, as the 8 stars face each other once in those quarterfinal ties. So we might very well do a spreadsheet for the ANZ Premier League, like we're doing with the PDC one. The finals night, though, is interesting. It's a little bit different, and I think this is a bit more fun. Top 4 going to Brisbane for finals night. They'll do a round robin, so they'll play each other once, and then the top 2 from that round robin will play in the final to win the event and secure a place at the World Championship. I think that's a nice, fun format. That way you get 7 matches across all the nights. You'll see players multiple times throughout, especially in Brisbane, where they'll play a minimum of 3 times, and 2 of them will play 4 times.
Yep. So
that's good. I think I like that as an idea for a format.
No, it's good. It's sort of a fresh system. It's good. It's something new, something different. So big
group
fan
stage does tend to work in darts, as we'll get to later with Motors. But shall we get to the biggest news?
Let's do it.
Absolute biggest news. Now, before we go, we mentioned last time we were here about the venues that were hosting these events.
Yes.
The Premier League was supposed to kick off in Cairns. For whatever reason that was, they haven't been able to host at that particular venue.
I think it was due to unforeseen circumstances.
For whatever reason, maybe
circumstances,
tropical cyclone Alfred had something to do with up in Queensland. I don't know what it was. Maybe the venue wasn't quite what they were hoping for. Maybe they couldn't get tickets. Who knows? Whatever the reason, we are so grateful for it because, ladies and gentlemen, the ANZ Premier League is kicking off in the great city of...
Would you like to?
Melbourne! And before there are any questions, Josh, what did you do during our class this time last week?
I immediately went on to Ticketek
and bought tickets. So we will be going. We may even be going as media accredited people.
Hope so.
Dave Allen, the media manager of the PDC, please get back to us.
Yes.
I contacted him a week ago. Still haven't heard anything yet. Well, mind you, the response I got saying it's been forwarded to him came in my spam, so I need to keep checking my spam folder in case stuff gets in there.
We'll do that
so maybe he has, and I missed it. Anyway, John Cain Arena is going to be the home of the opening night of the Premier League darts. This is so exciting. Me and Josh were literally bouncing off the wall in Davin's class.
Yeah.
Last week. This is the most exciting news possible, isn't it, Josh?
I was intending of showing you something, and then the first thing that came up was basically that, but having it
was a full video.
Yeah, the whole video.
It was promoting. It started with Simon Whitlock and Russ Bray confirmed.
Yes. Yep.
And then it went through all the dates, and it had
dates.
Melbourne first, and you were confused.
Melbourne and Newcastle. I'm like, hang on, this is some sort of joke, and I read it through. There's an article attached. I'm like, no way. And then you were next to me. I'm like, mate.
Hey, hang on. Yeah, you basically turned to me as like for sanity check. You turned to me and going, does this actually say Melbourne? You did actually believe, and for good reason. No one actually believed it said Melbourne until we actually went to Ticketek and had the tickets there, and the guy went, all right, great, this is fantastic.
John Cain Arena, I'm like, quick, go. And
yeah, so you wasted no time on that.
Got some pretty good tickets in the end, actually. Goodish views, so can't wait. But hopefully we get some media accreditation.
As far, so we might have to. They are refundable, those tickets, so we might have to deal with that. But at any rate, barring us falling sick, I guess we will be there.
I will be there if I'm sick or not.
Yeah, I'll be coming in with mask and everything. No metal forks allowed in John Cain Arena, famously, but
or metal
water bottles or anything else. It'll be all plastic. It'll be a wasteful occasion, but it'll be a fun occasion. So I believe I was going to have a look and see which is the other one they've changed. They only have one now in New Zealand. I think they moved one out and replaced it with maybe the Gold Coast.
Cairns got abolished, and there was one of the New Zealand venues that also got abolished.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think.
I think it might have been Hamilton or something.
Yes, it was Hamilton. Yes, it was.
Because they're moving around with the World Series events, but they haven't been able to do that. So I think the Gold Coast have come in. So the 4th of October, that's a Saturday? When is that?
Yes, it's Saturday. Yeah,
it is a Saturday. Yeah. So I believe it's going to be Turnbull Stakes Day. It's it's the week after the grand final, AFL grand final in the city.
Yep.
So Saturday the 4th of October is when it kicks off, with finals night being the 22nd. So it's all Saturdays, so 8 consecutive Saturdays.
Yep.
Finishing off on November 22nd. The World Championship will probably start about 3 weeks later, I would have thought. Again, we haven't got that confirmed yet either. But we're very excited. We are going to the darts, you and I, Josh. And we will have undoubtedly plenty of related
content on social media. Yeah, plenty of videos, photos.
You know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to see people do. We know that often darts crowds, particularly in the UK, particularly the World Championship, are a bit casual. They sometimes don't know exactly what's going on in darts related. What I would love to do is go around and just ask people some, fairly standard darts questions. Standard for us.
Yeah,
I think name 3 European tour cities, right?
Sure.
Or you've got your opponent is on a makeable finish and you're on 1-2-6. Where are you starting? And if they say treble 20, throw them out of the venue. They're not allowed in. Never start on the 20s on 1-2-6 when your opponent's on a makeable finish. Always start on the 19s.
Or also name 3 iconic referees. You got George Noble, Russ Bray, and
Hugh Ware, Bruce Penley, or Frank Williams, or anyone like that. So
basic questions. I know what we should do. We should have a video. I have got a little mic. Hello, how are you this evening?
Exactly.
Good.
I'm pretty sure Alice Wilson did that at an Adelaide Matildas match last year.
Yeah.
So
on the Extra Time Media,
Facebook,
Instagram, and Facebook.
Oh, sorry, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, it is Instagram. We don't have Facebook as far as I'm aware. Knowing Extra Time, I think we have a TikTok. Not that we've ever used it. We put up one video there and never used it again. But yes, this is very exciting. We are looking forward to this. There will be related content on our social media channels when this comes around.
I'm just
We're
smiling.
so excited. This is the greatest thing ever. So Simon Whitlock, Russ Bray, definitely there, among many others, for night one of the ANZ Premier League. It's coming to you live from John Cain Arena, Melbourne.
I just remember the first time we heard news about it, we were so shattered. It's in Melbourne. I'm come on now.
We were so angry. You were sitting there. I was here complaining about no Melbourne, no Sydney. There's no Sydney either, but New South Wales does have the World Series event in Whitlock Gold.
We were so upset. We were shattered. We were so bitter about it. But now let's just dressing news. So this is the updated schedule. So we got Melbourne, obviously, on October 4. Newcastle, the Entertainment Centre, on October 11. Canberra at AIS Arena, October 18. Hobart, 25th at Mastake Arena. Adelaide, the Entertainment Centre, November 1. And we moved to Wellington for one night, the TSB Arena on November 8. Gold Coast.
The Gold Coast Convention Centre, I think that is,
And November 15.
Convention Entertainment Centre, something like that.
At Nissan Arena, Brisbane on finals night on November 22. So there is your updated schedule.
Yes. So we are pumped. We are ready to go. Opening night in Melbourne. That is going to be the biggest night, pretty much. Melbourne and Brisbane will be the biggest night, obviously, is the starter and the finisher. So it's going to be super exciting. The darts is coming back to Melbourne. I was about to say, I'm pretty sure this is the first any sort of darts-related event at John Cain Arena since, I believe it was the 2019
John Cain, number one, but also just in Melbourne. Yeah, because we've got the PDC one in Wollongong, which will be back in August, I'm pretty sure. Yep, so that will be there. But no, this is so exciting. Grows the game as well, and the one thing is, if you are the champion, you get that entry into the World Championships, which is so crucial because you get prize money already for being there, which is fantastic.
Yeah, a guarantee £15,000.
Yes, as we mentioned earlier. So
we on can't top wait. Of whatever the prize money, I'm not even sure. It probably is listed for prize money on that article. I just haven't looked because I've been all focused on the fact that it's coming to Melbourne. Yes.
So we're so excited, and you know one thing that would make it even better if John McDonald came.
If John McDonald was the MC,
oh my goodness me. That'd be insane. But
I think overlap with the Grand Prix and the Grand Slam, the European Championship and the Players' Championships.
There are lots of events going on at the time.
It's major season in darts in October and November, and obviously the World Championship in December. But you never know. You never know. He might come out for a few events, and maybe Melbourne will be one of them. Let's hope so.
And if it does happen, we will let you know as soon as possible, undoubtedly.
Yes.
Should we move on?
Yes, we will move on. I will say this is the only time so far in the history of the Lined Up podcast I've generally thought we should do an emergency episode.
Yes.
For announcing this. Well, we had to wait. Before we move on to Motor Super Series, the one thing I did want to mention, which I saw during the week, is Darts Australia, which is the sort of Australian connection to the World Darts Federation, and the Darts Players Australia, which is the Australian connection to the PDC, have said that they're going to be a bit more bipartisan, apparently. I saw that during the week. It's available on the Darts Australia. They put out a media release saying the DPA, which is Darts Players Australia, and Darts Australia have signed a new agreement that will see the two organisations work with each other in making sure the best standards of fair competition are kept across events for both organisations. The agreement means that suspensions for players or official misdemeanours can now be carried across to the other organisation. The aim is to make sure that darts can be played in a competitive but safe environment for all. Darts is a game for all to play, and misbehaviour from a minority of people can steal the fun away from others. Both organisations are keen to not ever execute... both organisations are keen to not have to ever execute this agreement, but it does demonstrate the willingness of major darting organisations across Australia to work more closely together to improve the game for all. So we know in this part of the world there's quite a few factions with the Darts Australia and the Darts, then the DPA and the ADC contingent out here. It's all a bit of a mess, but hopefully this is a sign of beginning to work a bit more together in love and harmony, which is what we like. Alrighty, let's move on now. After all of that, enough of Australian-related darts.
One quick thing.
Very quickly. So we even put this on our social media when we talked about it in the pod a few weeks ago that Littler and Taylor were going to play each other. And Littler came out victorious in a game of Jenga. It became pretty evident in the sort of 24, 40 hours leading up to this. It wasn't going to be a darts match. It was just going to be some sort of April Fool's. And nobody could have possibly got fooled for that.
I got
Josh?
Fooled.
Right, Josh?
I
was reading your messages thinking, I reckon you might be wrong here, but I'm not going to say anything because it might give the whole game away.
I was genuinely hopeful because, you know, the April Fool's about being up to 12 p.m. Lala. Because it said 12 p.m. Like, hang on, they're just fooling us, or they're actually doing this on this date. But no, unfortunately, they didn't play. We hope they do play.
I reckon they will at some point, to be honest. They're both target players. It's something people want to see. It might be in an exhibition. It might be some sort of, I don't know, version of the Royal Rumble WWE event, which we proposed before. I saw a video a week or 2 weeks ago where Stephen Bunting was asking some QA questions, and someone asked him about the Royal Rumble, and he said he would like to see an event like it.
There you go.
So there is support from players and fans alike to do some sort of wacky, weird exhibition event where you play a match and then winner stays on, and then some random player gets thrown up on there without anybody's knowledge, who you don't know. So I think it would be a great event. We might see something like that where Taylor and Littler are pitted against each other. Nevertheless, it was a fun little piece of promotional event, and Littler holding his nerve to beat Phil the Power. So he's 1-0 up in the stakes. I reckon we'll see these two actually play a game of darts eventually at some point. Alrighty.
Let's have a look at the final next. Look at Taylor's face. That is hilarious.
You realised, and it's gone.
Yes,
it was a high stakes match.
Comments there. High stakes match. I thought I may have got the edge with experience, but fair play to Luke. He held his nerve, and I crumbled. He really knows how to take his opponent down piece by piece. I'm sure we'll continue to see him make the right moves and reach new heights. That was just a funny little quote there. I had to add in about.
I believe Dan Dawson was doing some commentary on top of it for the Target. Promotional stuff for April Fools. It was one of the better April Fools stuff anything I saw. Yeah. Only about 3 AFL teams, we talked about this on Footy Chat, only about 3 AFL teams did Brisbane, Gold Coast and GWS, which felt like a bit unders, felt like more teams could have got in on the action. True. Clearly not. The Sam Taconi re-signing for Geelong definitely wasn't an April Fool's. That was legitimate. I think we're out of the race for his brother, though. But that's an interesting space on Footy Chat. Anyway, we'll move on. The King, Mervyn King. This is genuinely like his first title in any level of darts in about 60 years. For one of the iconic darting names, one of the iconic darting whingers at times. He has been Mervyn King, but he was all smile this weekend. He was pretty much the bookies' favourite throughout. He played really well, and he beat your man Steve West in the final. Yes, he did. No, he showed his class on finals night. He was good all week. As you said, he was the bookies' favourite for good reason, the stalwart of the game, and very, very good calibre player, as we know at his best. No, it was very good. He was very good. So good to see him get the win there. Crowd favourite as well. Yep. And yeah, it's good over a week for him. Good performance. It was. Now Simon Whitlock, speaking of the Aussie, he's back. I didn't realise you could have played, because he already played in Group A, didn't he? He played week 2. In week 2 in Group A. I didn't realise you could just double up and play again. In Group B and week 10, which is from tomorrow night. He just basically lives at the Motor Super Series now because he's part of Double Trouble. So he must just live in Portsmouth now. Maybe. So he's part of Group B, and he'll come into action tonight. Yes, I think tonight. I think Group B is Thursday night, Australian time, I'm pretty sure. Yes, in Group A, we'll get to the results in a moment. There was a bit of history here with Tom Sykes picking up a 4-0 win, averaging 111. It was one of the fastest, the fastest time. I think it was 5 minutes 22, I think it was, from memory. Fastest time, Brian Roman had a shocker. 74.82 average, and Sykes was sublime. He did not miss a double double. Had a 180, 4 from 180s. 111.33. Yeah, he was sensational. No, I just thought it was a moment of history at Portsmouth. And they've we learned that they've got the matching 180 tattoos here. Well, that's Jimmy Van Ski on the left there. No, it's pretty funny. So Jimmy hits a 180 and then just looks at the camera and goes, "Yeah, we got matching tattoos." I'm like, it's pretty funky. So I just thought I'd add that in. So if we look at the Group A standings, I actually got it in. The complete standings, because basically every week now we're alternating between Wednesdays and Thursdays. So sometimes we come in after they play 10, sometimes we come in after they play the full 15. But there's an interesting one. There's a 7th. I was going to say, I didn't know. So what's happened is Andy Davidson clearly, for whatever reason, was unavailable to play on the last day. And so Charlie Large has taken his place. Joined in, so I've never seen that before. I've seen it once, but it was in Group C where they had like 3. They got the 3. Was it 3 players, and it was 4. I think Scotty Mitchell came in a few. He was probably on commentary. He was probably on commentary, and he was on commentary, and he said, "You know what? I'll play, and see how I go." So that's what happened. But Jimmy Van Ski, the crowd favourite, leads Group A. He will have a finals campaign this weekend. Tom Sykes has been very good all week, as I mentioned. 13-2, that's good. And Tom Sykes 11-4. The one very disappointing is Martin Biggs only registered 1 win across the 3 days. That is not good for him. No, so minus 40 leg difference is a shocker. Yes, very, very. All right, I am conscious of the time, Josh, so we do have to move it along pretty quickly. Yes. Small, Walker, Spivey, McGurk, Robinson, Campbell, Coulson, Peterson, and King. That's a very nice lineup. Champions Week lineup. Yeah, so Week 10 will be coming up soon.
And
right.
hopefully Whitlock can be added to that list.
Hopefully. We'll look at the week ahead in the matchups. I fixed the error from last week. So we've got a couple of matchups that have happened 4 occasions. Littler Cross, Littler Van Gogh, and Littler Humphreys. Appears to be just about it. Bunting still. Just the mere 8 matches. Everyone else has got to at least double digits. Littler's up to 20 matches now in the Premier League. He's played everyone multiple times except for Chris Dobie. Right. Night 9, we're at the Uber Eats Arena in Berlin, Josh. It sounded much better when it was the Mercedes-Benz, alas. Nathan Aspinall and Stephen Bunting playing the first match. We need to rip through these predictions very quickly. So, who have you got for the first match of Night 9? Is this finally... It can't go on, can it? It can't.
Surely not. Well, I have backed him in...
multiple times?
A few weeks now, I think. I think last week I did, and I think fortnight... fortnight before that. Yeah. So, Aspinall. Well,
he's in good form.
He's been in good form. We talked about it earlier. He had that very good win and good matchup against MVG. I do think Bunting registers his first win.
All right, so do I.
I've said it 3 times. Please
don't let me down. We're just going to manifest this in reality.
Please don't let me down. I think it'll be a cracker. I reckon we'll go 6-4 in this one.
All right, I'll go 6-5 Bunting. Humphreys Cross. Don't go too long with these because they're running low on time.
Yes, Humphreys. Yeah, I think he'll be too good. I'll go 6-3 in this one.
I'll have it a little bit closer, but I reckon 6-4 to Cool Hand. Dobie Littler, so they play for the second time in this Premier League here on Night 9.
You think Littler? He's just been way, way too strong, way too good. But I do give Dobie a little sniff, so we'll go 6-2.
All right, I was going to go I'll go by the exact same score, 6-2. Van Gogh and Price, last match of the night. This feels like one where the eventual winner could come out of this.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll go MVG. I reckon it'll be close. We'll go last leg decider.
All right, I am feeling, I'm leaning more towards the Iceman this time. He won the Players' Championship event of the weekend. I think he'll bounce back 6-4 Price. Of your semi-finalists, give me a winner and a score in the final against an opponent.
Top bracket, lower bracket. All right, I think Humphreys, again, we'll go the top bracket, and then we'll go... surely can't go Littler again, right?
Well, I don't know. Does he do it this week or next week?
I can't do it. All right, we'll go MVG. We'll go MVG.
Sure, why not?
Humphreys, MVG, and... You know what? Stuff it. Outsider. MVG for the win.
MVG 6-4. For the win. I am also going to go Humphreys. I'm also going to go for the lower bracket to win it. I think Luke will get his 5th win, but not this week. I'll have Gone Price 6-4 in the final over Humphreys.
Okay, I like it.
And just continuing his tip-toppy Premier League sort of thing.
Pretty much. Yep.
Night 8 afterwards, we had these standings. 26 points for Littler. He's basically guaranteed. So's Humphreys 18. It's a tight battle between Van Gogh and Price, Crossman, Aspinall. They're 4 guys fighting over 2 spots. You feel like Dobie and Bunting, unless they win 2 or 3 nights in a row, which seems unlikely, are going to finish anything other than 7th or 8th.
3rd to 6th is very, very close. Only 3 points in it.
That's where we'll be keeping our eyes on over the next 2 months.
For those top 2 spots.
Last week, I was actually going to play this iconic leg, but we don't have time. Mike Van Gogh played Gary Anderson in Newcastle 2018. MVG threatened a 9 darter, didn't quite get it, and then Anderson pinned the 170 big fish in mad scenes. In Newcastle, this was one of the great games, but MVG was just too good in the second half. Anderson missed a few darts at double, and it was a Michael Van Gogh win in an iconic Premier League belter. Something else we should mention, International Darts Open this week, European Tour, which means we go to the 2022 final. This was a battle for the world #1 spot between the 2 best players in the world at the time, Gone Price and Peter Wright, if you can believe they were the best 2 in the world at the time. Both players average 106. It's relatively competitive throughout, and the doubling is pretty good, especially from Gone Price, as we imagine when he's playing well. He's hitting those doubles. So 2022 International Darts Open final for you is the Darts Archive. We'll talk about that next week. All right, Josh, we're done, and we've got to get to class.
Yes, we do.
So,
what a show.
Thank you very much for listening to us chat away about all things tungsten this week. We'll be back for episode 14 next week. It's going to be big.
Check your spam folder, please.
Yes, I'm going to check the spam folder, and we'll have any more news, particularly about Australian darts, should we come your way.
PDC media team, please get back to us. Please give us accreditation. You know,
we would absolutely love that. Any updates will be coming in coming episodes as well. Make sure to follow the 9 Dart Pod on Instagram. Extra time on all affiliated channels, so Twitter/X Instagram, and of course you can subscribe right here on YouTube so you never miss anything that we do. We've got a very interesting footy chat. Episode 8 is going to be a little bit different format, as we teased at the end of the last one with me and Woodsy. We're looking forward to recording that. Alrighty, that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much, Josh, and thanks, Sean, for producing. This has been the 9 Dar Podcast.